Impulse. So impulse is the force applied to an object over time. So the equation for impulse is force times delta t is equal to impulse, which means it's also the area under the curve of an f versus t graph. So these are all situations in which the impulse is the same. So notice that I'm multiplying force, the length, times the base, the time. And because the units of force are newtons, and because the units of time are seconds, the unit of impulse is newton seconds. So this first instant, I'm applying a 6 Newton force for 10 seconds. My impulse is 60 Newton seconds. Here I have the same impulse, but what's happened is that I've applied a greater force over a smaller amount of time. Or even a greater force, 20 newtons over 3 seconds. Or I could do even the opposite. I could apply a very small force, a 3 Newton force, for a long period of time of 20 seconds. And all of this will generate the same amount of impulse. And if F can be negative, because of the direction that you're applying it, then impulse can also be negative. So here's an example of me applying a force for a negative 6 newtons over 10 seconds. So my impulse is equal to negative 60 Newton seconds. So examples of things that have the same impulse but different effects, I can have a punch, right? So that's somebody who's hitting you with a great amount of force, but over a little bit of time. So it hurts a lot, but it's only for a little bit. Or very small force for a very long period of time, so blowing on a pinwheel. The force of my breath is certainly not very strong, but if I apply it for a long period of time, I could conceivably create the same amount of impulse as a punch could. So you can increase impulse by increasing the force, that's muscle, or increasing the time, which is follow through, or both, which is what pro athletes do. So one of the things that they work on, think about a baseball player, they not only increase the force at which they're applying the bat to the ball, but they're also following through on their swing so that maximum amount of force has the amount of time so that it can generate that impulse on the baseball. That follow through is also true with punches. It's also true with throwing any sort of ball, hitting a ball, whether you're talking about hockey or field hockey or soccer, any of those things, tennis, that you're going to want to both increase the amount of force and also have that follow through. That's the technique part of it. When we talk about momentum in the next video, we'll talk about the relationship between impulse and momentum.